Hello, and welcome to the 2023 Striking a Balance Caregiver Conference. I'm Rob Fabian at Age of Central Texas. We are a regional nonprofit organization that serves older adults and family caregivers. And along with our partners and friends at the Area Agency on Aging of the Capital Area, we are so glad that you are joining us for our 22nd annual Caregiver Conference. In fact, this has become the largest and longest running caregiver conference in Central Texas. So we are so glad that you are here. All this week, we are bringing you experts with great information to help you in your caregiver journey. Before we start with today's presentation, I want to do just a couple of really quick housekeeping items. Number one, we are recording all of these sessions. So if you miss one of them this week, or you need to leave early today, or if you just want to share these great resources with your family and friends, they're going to be available on the Age of Central Texas YouTube channel. We're going to send those links to you at the end of this week, along with all of the resources from this week and the PowerPoint slides, so you'll have those. We're also going to send you a copy of our program for this year's Caregiver Conference. It has lots of great information in it to help you with caregiver resources. Then finally, as I mentioned, this program is for you. So we want you to be able to ask your questions today. If you look down here at the bottom of your window, you'll see the chat feature. Looks kind of like one of those thought bubbles that you see in the comic strip. Click on that and it'll open up the chat box. During today's presentation, ask your questions, because when we're done with the presentation, we're going to answer all of your questions today. It is my pleasure to introduce to you Patty Bordy. She is the Executive Director at the Area Agency on Aging. She's going to tell you a little bit about the Area Agency on Aging and introduce today's speaker.
Hi, Rob. Thanks so much. And thanks, y'all, for attending. We are so excited. This is the third day of the event, and the last 2 days have been jam-packed with attendees, with information. We have also learned something. We've been doing this for 20 plus years, and both Rob and I have already learned something from the sessions, and today will be no different. Thank you for joining us. I'm Patty Bordy, Director of the Area Agency on Aging. We have been providing services to family caregivers since the inception of the National Family Caregiver Support Program in 2001. And that was when our first Striking a Balance conference was organized, really in support of that program. We have learned so much. We provide everything from information and assistance to education and training to services like this, all the way down to very, very specific individualized care planning around in-home support, respite care, income support, other types of supportive equipment, anything that you might need to make your caregiving experience and journey more effective. As you know, that is the theme of this year's conference, is really trying to be more effective and more efficient and really look at caregiving through a practical lens and giving you all the tips and tools and techniques that we can think of to share that might help you in your journey, knowing full well that everybody's journey is very specific, very unique, very individual. And that's why we're super excited about today's session, because we have an expert here who's been in the business as long as I have. I like to call a friend and a colleague, but also really one of the experts. So I'm going to do a formal introduction and then we'll get right to it. Samantha Young Cervantes is an elder care consultant who has spent more than 25 years in long-term care. She assists older and differently abled adults and has spent the majority of her career helping families navigate the often confusing elder care system. She went from owning an adult daycare to developing one of the first licensed home care agencies in Austin to founding her own home health care company. As the sole caregiver for her parents for over 10 years, she has firsthand experience with family caregiving. 10 steps to organize caregiving and the accompanying fillable PDF she will share as one of the resources are the culmination of her personal and professional knowledge, organized to help to put families and their caregivers in the driver's seat. And that just says very small about what Samantha is. Samantha has forever brought both her expertise in her head and her heart for this. I really had my first experience in working with and serving caregivers as I worked for Samantha with family elder care. So I firsthand saw the challenges that y'all face, and it became a passion of mine, in addition to a passion of hers. So we both have been at this for a long time, and really, she is somebody that takes a very organized, very practical, very formalized, yet individualized approach to helping you solve your problems day in and day out, minute by minute. You know, as a family caregiver, often it is minute by minute. So without further ado, you're in for a treat, and please feel free to ask questions during. We will get most of the questions at the end. So don't hesitate to ask. Thank you, Samantha. Thanks for being here.
Thank you, Patty. I'm going to share my screen now real quick to start the slideshow. Okay, I'm assuming everybody can hear me. If you can't, if you'll send a note. Today I'm going to talk about aspects of self-care, and that's different from everybody. So what I want to bring to this today are ideas and thoughts that you might be able to bring for your specific caregiving experience. I have quite a bit of experience, and now my screen doesn't want to. Oh, there we go. I had to press a little harder on the buttons. So this is me. I took care of my mother. My children were involved in that, and I love this picture. It's one of my favorite ones because my kids helped me so much, and it helped them to understand the importance of taking care of family members. Again, my career has been as a nursing home administrator and adult daycare owner. I've worked in nonprofit management, private duty home care owner. I did that for many years, and then actually I've stepped back into doing that. And as I was writing this list of things that I've done, I have volunteered, I've been an author, or am an author, and a mother, and then I put caregiver on the very bottom. And as I was thinking about it, I left it there, but caregiving is like insinuated in everything. It could be at the top, it could be at the bottom. It was a part of my life for 10 years where I took care of both of my parents. And now I'm helping other people through their experiences. So it's a title that covers everything. And a lot of people, if you are a caregiver, should just say right away that you're a caregiver, and then you're an adult daycare owner or a nursing home administrator, because it's a really big job. This quote was given to me when I started redoing my website, and I just fell in love with it. So you can't stop the waves, but you can learn to surf. And I pulled some of his books and started reading it. And it's actually a great, for want of a better word, Zen type of reading. If you want to just take 5 minutes and read, it's a great way to center yourself, for want of a better word. So I'm going to go over 10 aspects of self-care. There's the physical, which is obvious, your emotional well-being, mental stimulation, you want to keep that up, rest and relaxation, social connections, you don't want to give those up. It's very easy to isolate yourself into taking care of the person that you're taking care of without help from others. So setting boundaries, that's another really important one, and something that I learned along the way while I was working with social workers. They helped me understand how to set boundaries. Self-reflection and self-acceptance, we'll go into that a little bit. Leisure and recreation, which is different than social and rest and relaxation. Time management, which I think is probably one of the most important aspects of self-care, and then seeking support. So we'll get right into this. So what exactly is self-care? It's the deliberate and voluntary actions we take to maintain our well-being, and I call that our sanity. It involves prioritizing ourselves through self-nurturing, relaxation, self-actualization. And for me, I keep a calendar for my week. I have a lot of things that I do. And one of the things that I do is put on there when I'm going to exercise. And I exercise in the afternoons, about 5 o'clock. And if I don't have it on my calendar, it's really easy to think, maybe I don't want to do that today. It's really important that you don't put that to the side. You have to make sure that you do the things for yourself and you follow your calendar and you make sure that happens, because then later on down the line, when you're taking care of somebody and it involves a lot of back work and leg work, if you've kept up with your exercise program, then you're able to do that without hurting yourself. So just an aside on that one. As we go through, there are a lot of resources that I'm going to give you. Not everybody's going to want to do the same self-care as everyone else, or even have the ability. So the resource list will give you ideas as we go along. And I believe Rob said that you'll be able to pull these slides. So you don't need to hastily write them down unless you just want to go look right away. So the first thing when we talk about is physical. And I talked about this a little bit before, you need to be able to physically take care of yourself as well as the person you're taking care of. So if you're an example I want to give to you about physically taking care of yourself, I have somebody that I've been walking with for over 20 years now. She and I exercised together, and then we took walks, and we started calling it our therapy walks because we raised kids together, we took care of our parents together, and we walked and talked for an hour, hour and a half, 2 or 3 days a week. And it really helped us. It gave us clarity, and then it gave us somebody that we knew that we were going to go back walking together. And if we said we were going to do something, we needed to follow through with it. And she would hold me accountable for doing things like that. It also got me out to walk, and still does, even in 100-degree weather. So if you can find a walking buddy, that has been the best thing ever that we continue to still do together. And now we talk about grandbabies and our dogs. So we find it funny that we transitioned from talking about our children to taking care of our parents to now we're talking about grandbabies and our dogs. Eating right is just as important physically. There are several things that you can do. And personally, what I started to do was I'm in my 50s. I thought I knew how to cook, but I started following different things online. One group that I followed was the Mayo Clinic. There's another group that you could follow, or you can Medicare actually does pay for Nourish if you wanted a dietitian that would come out. But it gives me menus and thoughts and ideas on what to cook and how to take care of myself so that I've got the energy. And it gives me ideas on snacking. So instead of going and sitting down with a bag of potato chips or a bag of cookies, you sit down with vegetables that you already cut, vegetables, and snack ideas. So that's been a great thing for me, as well as I'm not dehydration is an issue for a lot of people. I have a hard time drinking 8 glasses of water a day, but if you snack correctly and you eat watermelon, or you eat other melons or berries, or you have iced smoothies, that goes towards the 8 glasses. So you don't have to chug down and have that water. Not that it's not a bad thing to have that, but there are other ways to get the dehydration, or to prevent dehydration. Vitamins are also an important thing too. So I found out that you wouldn't think this would be something that you would have a problem with in Texas, but I'm very low on vitamin D. I just don't, it's just too hot. I don't go outside. And so I started taking vitamin D, and it made a huge impact on my sleep, on being able to be alert during the day. And I just didn't realize that was something that would be an issue here in Texas. So it might be something you'd want to get looked at if you get to your next doctor's appointment. You might want to see about doing that. And then I was just talking to Rob, and he talked about that exercise is a big part of what he does. He goes to the gym. If you can't get out, there are a couple of different programs online. AARP has great programs. So does, I actually pay for Beachbody, and I work out at home. I started doing Tai Chi. My walking buddy said she didn't want to do that because she felt like it might be for old people, but I started looking at it and doing it, and it's been enlightening, and I think it will help me to prevent me from falling and hurting myself. So just a thought, but there's several other programs, but that's just one that I use. So I don't know if you want to put in the chat what types of physical and or what types of foods and things that you have found personally that has helped you that you would want to share with the rest of the group. Okay, so the next thing I want to talk about is emotional well-being. So a really quick story. I was having a bad day on Monday, and it was just really frustrating. And you could just feel the frustration coming off of me, and my dog started to act up. So I very quickly realized, okay, I need to be calm, and I need to deal with the issues that are happening today so that they will calm down. So If you're somebody that's taking care of a person who has dementia, you'll notice that as your emotional well-being is either you're angry or you're frustrated, it rubs off on them and they feel the same way. So taking care of yourself and making sure that that your emotional well-being is being addressed is really important as a caregiver for a lot of different reasons. But one of the things that I've found is support groups. Not every support group is for everyone. I know AGE has groups. You can find groups through the Area Agency on Aging. There's a great nonprofit out of the Northeast called Beyond My Battle, which I've sent quite a few caregivers to that they've had success with. But if you're on Facebook, there's also caregiver space groups there. I call it a caregiver space, but that's actually what the group is called. And you can just listen to what other people are going through and help them. So helping other people walk through the caregiving journey is a good way to help you feel like you're assisting somebody else. So I encourage you to look through Facebook and find groups that would maybe participate, like if there's Parkinson's or dementia or anything else, even if you're a brand new caregiver and you're just trying to figure it out, there's a group out there. So don't discount going to support groups, and they can be a lot of fun. I've been to a few recently where we stayed an hour or two past where we just sat around and chatted, and it was a lot of fun for everyone. So I really highly encourage you to do that for your own emotional well-being. And if you need help, reach out. Emotionally, if you're at the end of your rope, reach out, ask. There are so many people that would help. And I mean, you could call me if you wanted, but probably the best thing to do would be to talk to somebody at AGE or talk to somebody at AAA. I encourage you to. So the next, my screen is not moving. Aha, there we go. The next one I want to talk about is mental stimulation. So you need to exercise your brain. There's a lot of ways we can do that. And my kids thought it was really funny that I wanted to get a Switch. So the Nintendo Switch, they have great games on there. They have brain games on there. They have things that you could do and sit down for 5 minutes. You can play, the one that I was in was, I think it's, I have to remember what it is, but it's, you go around, you develop a farm and you put it together. So there are things that you could do for just a few minutes that I highly encourage everybody to do. There's also AARP has programs, and I wasn't too sure about AARP because I feel like that maybe that's be for older adults, but they have an amazing caregiver resource and lot of things that you can reach out for. So there's actually a girlfriend's newsletter where they send out information for women specifically, or they've got driving tests. They've got all kinds of things on there. If whatever question, whatever issue you would need, you could talk to them. And I know there's a group here, but the online program has been a great resource that I've looked through. And then there's a group called, it's MIT. So MIT has an AGE lab where they're getting students, and I actually became a part of that as a caregiver. They wanted volunteers to sign up to do their, they'll have surveys, and I still do it. Now my parents have passed on, but I still do their surveys and they still want my information. And then they have a newsletter that they send out on all the cool things that they're doing. And they're really looking outside the box at ways to help caregivers. So I really encourage you to look up MIT AGE Lab and to find out what kinds of things that are available to you and what they're looking at doing for the future. And then I would also say volunteer. I deliver on Meals on Wheels, and I see there's a couple that comes in and picks up their food and goes out, and I believe she has early dementia. So he takes her, they both go together, they deliver the meals. It's something that they could do both together to help. I'm sure there's other things that you might be able to do if you belong to a church or other groups that you would maybe look at volunteering that way, but that is a way to give back to the community and help you both feel like you're still giving back. And helps with the not isolating yourself. Because whenever I go pick up my meals, I'm always talking to the delivery people, and we've gotten to know each other's names and what's going on. And then you know the people that you deliver your meals to, and you keep up with them. So, all right, so rest and relaxation. So I put this little fact in here about jazz music. My youngest son was in jazz and he gave it up. When he left high school, he just stopped. There was no more music. And I find that really sad, but he did an amazing job as a jazz drummer. And I always thought jazz would just kind of would be something that would get your mind energized, but it actually relaxes your body. And there's been studies done on this. You'd have to look it up. I don't have that information, but it relaxes your alpha waves, which helps you to reduce anxiety and to promote and calm your mind. So you might have to find somebody that you would like to listen to. And I love jazz, but it's up to you as to which one you would want. So for rest and relaxation, take 5 or 10, however that looks to you. So when I was taking care of my parents, I was also a single parent, and my taking 5 was to put my kids in the bathtub and take a shower, which was right next to it. So I had 10 minutes of watching them, but taking a shower. And so whatever you do to be able to get the 10 minutes or 5 minutes, figure out a way. There's always a way to do that. And it's healthy. And it's important that you do that. And it could be when my mother was living with me, she would help me put dinner together. And so I would sit her down and she would cut up the vegetables, and she wanted to help that way. And we would talk, but we would also listen to music or TV. And so for me, that was relaxation. I wasn't worried about, is she going to fall, or what's she doing in the back room that I don't have eyes on her. So there are different ways to come across that. And then she accomplished something by helping me make dinner every day. So I actually really miss those times, and I'm glad I had that opportunity with my mother. Meditation is something that people talk about for relaxation. If that's something you can do, then by all means, there's different things online that you could follow, but my mind is just going a million miles a minute. So if I sit down to try and meditate, I'm just thinking about all the things I need to do. So maybe that's why I enjoy the Tai Chi, because I'm moving and my mind is thinking about the moving and not what I need to be doing in the next 10 minutes when I'm done with meditation. So it's really up to you as to whether or not you can do that. Another thing that I personally used to do, and I don't know if anybody else does that, and I think you could put the person you're caring for in the car, but it's to drive. When my kids wouldn't sleep, I would get in the car, turn on the music, we'd drive around, and that was actually a relief. It was restful to me to just drive around in the middle of the night with the music going. And I know of people that will do, some of my caregivers that go out and take care of clients will go out and they'll get in the car and they'll just drive around and go out to the country and come back. So that's actually, of course, if traffic's not bad, but if you can get to an area where there's not bad traffic, then driving could be a type of relaxation for you. And then music. And I was actually going to ask everybody is there a set of songs or one certain song that you listen to that helps you get through the rough spots? And I know that there was Lenny Kravitz has a song where I'll fly away, or I want to fly away, I want to get away. And that was my song when I just had enough. And I would just put that music on as loud as I could in the car and listen to it. And it just helped me get through some rough spots. So I don't know if does anybody have any songs that they like to listen to? And now I've actually gotten interested in Casey Musgrave. She's got some amazing songs that you can sing along to that kind of remind me of the Carpenters. So it would be interesting to find out if y'all have songs that you like to listen to that help you get through. And I consider that music therapy. And there's actually groups that will come to the home, or you can go to them. But for me, it's a big part of rest and relaxation. Then there's journaling. I try and do that. I'm not very good at it. But I will tell you that we found letters that my father wrote. He, from the time he was 15 to his sisters, he was in World War II, he was in Vietnam. All of those letters that he wrote to her, his sister kept. After my mother passed away, we found this box, and it was so interesting. And so we felt so much closer to my father once we were able to go through and read his letters. And I feel like when I journal, I write as though I'm writing to my children, and it'll be something that they read once I've passed on. So not only is it helping me get my thoughts and ideas onto paper of what I'm going through, I think it could be something that you could give to somebody later on down the line. Then there's aromatherapy. my mother used to make bread. And so I would make that. And again, in the kitchen and doing things together, that smell when you come into the house, when you've got cookies or bread and things like that, are an important part of relaxation. And then, so most people use Spotify or YouTube to listen to music. I'm not sure what everybody else is doing, and then I wanted to, so sleep is an important part of, being a good caregiver. If you're not sleeping well, then the next day you're going to be just as irritated and even worse. So there are a lot of, that was actually another question I wanted to ask everybody, is is there anything that you do to help with sleep? Other than, which a lot of people talk about, is a glass of red wine, which when I was running nursing homes back in the 80s, there was a woman that would sit right outside the front door, and her daughter would come over every day and give her a glass of wine before she went to bed. And it was her little glass of red wine, and we had to get a doctor's order for it, but that was just her thing, and it helped her sleep. So, whatever works for somebody. And then I know that a lot of people started using Delta 8, which is my friend and I that go walking. We've talked about doing that to help us sleep, because as women get older, sleep becomes a big issue for various reasons. So that might be something you might want to look into as well. But I'd be curious to see what other people do to help with their sleeping. Okay, so the next, I talk about social connection. One of the sad things that happens when you become a caregiver is people leave your life. They start asking you to do things, or asking you if they can help, and you either tell them, I'm okay, I don't need help, or when they ask you to do things, you're like, I can't. They stop asking you, they stop coming to you. And that happens with any relationship. So don't give up, figure out a way to keep those connections. And I wanted to take a picture of a couple that's down the street from me. And they started this during COVID. They're taking care of it's a woman. I think it's just her and her father. But there was 2 chairs in her front yard. And then after about a month or two, now there's like 6 chairs, and they're still there. And they sit outside on the front lawn, and the neighbors come out, and they come and chat, or they come and go. But it was I think that's just such a great idea. You wouldn't be able to do that now. It's just way too hot unless you got out really early in the morning. But a lot of the neighbors actually walk around the block, and I water the lawn in the morning and I say hi. So that is still part of a social life. Stop and talk to these people. Don't give up and isolate yourself, because you won't always be a caregiver. There will come a time where this person will pass, and then you'll be by yourself, and then you'll have to rebuild it. So don't let go of those, from your church or a religious organization to groups that you belong to. If you go to AARP, that actually is a group. There's also meetups where you can, and I started doing this. I haven't done very many of them because they're just not things. I think it's taco and biking and other things like that. And I haven't really learned how to use it well, but I'm sure there are meetups for caregivers. And there are meetups for people who, are taking care of somebody with dementia, or you're dealing with Parkinson's or whatever. So if what you're looking for is, and you're not finding it in a support group, don't give up. Keep looking. There is some group or something that you could be a part of. So I encourage you not to give up on any of that. Okay, so we need to talk about setting boundaries. And just saying no, it's a funny thing to say in this instance, but if my mother, she would ask for things that I'd be like, no, I can't. And what I ended up doing was hiring my own caregivers to come in and take care, because she wanted me to take her to the mall every day. And I worked, I have 2 children, I couldn't do it. But I didn't want her to give up on that. Plus, she would drive me crazy. And there was one time where we were in the mall, and I was so frustrated. She wanted to go to the mall, and she's the type of person that would, she's on a walker, and she wanted to look at everything. And we knew we were going to the mall so I'm dragging her along going, no, we're not going to stop. We're going to keep going. And people would stare at us and go, wow, she's mean to her mother. But they just don't understand what I was dealing with. And I needed to get her in and out and get back, because I had to feed my kids. So if you're not say no for yourself and find out a way to get somebody else. And I found a caregiver for her that's all they did. They went shopping together. They loved it. She would text me to tell the caregiver that there was a sale on toilet paper. She wanted to go get toilet paper, and that was okay. So her and the caregiver would go out and do that. But I set my boundary is that I knew that I was not going to be a good caregiver to her if I was going to have to deal with her after shopping. So set your boundaries and then find a way to make that happen. I have to say that I'm from a family of 7. There were 7 of us. I was the only person who took care of both my parents. Part of that was them assuming that because I'm an elder care person, I'm an expert at it, that I would be the one and I needed to do it. They had no idea, and we all have our family issues, and there were lots of things that happened in our life, but I made the mistake of not telling them that they needed to do something. Like I should have said, I need you to come here on Sunday and I need you to spend 2 hours with her. Or I did do one thing, and that was at the holidays. I made them do the holiday and we came there so that I wouldn't have that added issue of taking care of her and then also cooking and then cleaning up afterwards. And it wasn't that they weren't appreciative, but those to me, those are boundaries as well. You need to say, I need your help. You have to help me. And one thing that I mentioned to somebody, I think it might've been Patty, was I asked my mom's permission to take care of her. I didn't just jump in and say, I'm taking care of you. This is what we're doing. I asked her permission, and it happened to be at a point where she was pretty low. So I sat down and I looked her in the eye and I said, do you want me to take care of this? Do you want me to manage all of your care? And she just said yes. And she was a woman that had been taken care of all her life by her husband, my father. So it wasn't a hard sell. It might be a little harder. So like when I'm older and somebody needs to take care of me, I might be like, no, I'm fine. I don't need your help. But hopefully by then I'll have let go of some of that. But asking that person's permission will, I think, get around some of the issues that they might have. And then when you ask their permission, talk to them about how is it that they want to be taken care of. Do they want a caregiver? Okay, and if you don't want a caregiver, what does that look like for me and you? So having a complete discussion about how that will happen will help eliminate a lot of problems down the line. And just very quickly in my book, I talk about outlining your goals and how are you going to reach that goal? If you want your mother to live with you until she passes away, that's your goal. And how are you going to make that happen so that your life doesn't go in the tank while you're trying to do that, using all your money, losing your relationships? How are you going to do it so that you still continue to have your life? And then the last point on here is to tell your family that you need help. Ask them for help. Tell them you need a break. And in my book, I talk about a family of 6 sisters. And they all took care of, it's actually my cousin. So it's Aunt Alice. She was an amazing person. She was always the life of the party, but she had no memory of anything. And so she lived with one of the daughters, and then the other daughters took weekends and days, and they gave this other daughter the break. And it was an amazing family situation where they were able to do that. I can't say that it wouldn't happen in my own family, but it was something that they were able to do. So ask your family, and you'd be surprised how many people would step up to help. Okay, self-reflection and self-acceptance. So I talk about this. It's okay to be angry. There were times when, so my mother, she was not able to eat because she had a hardened esophagus. So she couldn't eat stuff with crumbs in it. And I had to start hiding cake. I had to hide the cookies. I've got young kids and they want those things. She found them, and she found them on Christmas Eve, and she ate them and choked, and I had to take her to the ER. I was so angry with her because she just did this. I felt like she did this to us, and I wasn't thinking of what she was going through. And I was, now that I look back on it, I realized, okay, maybe I should have looked at another, maybe she wanted sweets and I can think of another thing to give her. But it's okay to be angry, but how you work with it and how you deal with it is, and what I did, how I dealt with this, I went to work. And I had social workers. And so I would sit down with my social workers and they would walk me through it. You guys don't have that, but you could go talk to your support group. You could talk with the people at Age or the AAA. There is help there. So don't bottle all that up, because that won't be very good. Accept help. Before it gets too far into the disease and you can't leave the house because they won't let anybody else in, get help in there so that your resentment and your anger doesn't build to just bad portions. And a lot of times what that does is it increases your stress. And I know all of you have heard the statistics, and I've actually seen it myself, where I had a family member that we started caring for. The wife was far into the dementia diagnosis. We finally started helping once a week so the husband could go to the grocery store. I think we were there the second time. He drove to the grocery store and he died in the parking lot of the grocery store while we were caring for his wife. His heart gave out. Don't wait to get help. And that's not, I mean, there's like, they think that statistics are about 50% or something like that. Start taking care of yourself, but it's not everybody's going to do that. But get help before it gets to that point. And it's okay to be sad. I talked to a lot of people who, as they're caring for their family member, wish that they would just go, that they just, or go at this time so that they can do other things. And I've seen that it's the frustration and the stress of having to do it is a normal part of being a caregiver. But again, ask for help and talk about it, and we can help you get through that. And then my little thingy here is covering up what I need to talk about down here. Okay, so yes, don't keep it inside. Let it out, whether it's through exercise, whether it's through music, whether it's through, talking. I encourage you to find a walking buddy and talk it out. No judgment, while you're walking, and just let it out. It was really helpful for me. Okay, so the next one we're going to talk about is leisure and recreation. I have to say that when my mother was living with me, and even when I was taking care of my father before that, as a caregiver, there's never a point where you're not on. You're always thinking about, are they okay? And when I would go to work, and then I still to this day remember when I'd have to fly down Mopac, I'd get the call that we had to call EMS for my mother. I'm driving 100 miles an hour down Mopac to get there to be able to go with her to the ER. You're just always on. There's never a point. So even when you have the time for leisure and recreation, figure out a way to turn that off, even though it's still kind of there in the background. It's a part of what you need to do. And another reason why exercise is so important, to get that stress out of there. And talking about being on, when there was a point where I had a baby monitor downstairs. We were upstairs. My mother was downstairs. I had a baby monitor. And I would listen for her because she would take sleeping pills and she would get up and sleepwalk. And so I came down one time and she had a potato peeler with a chunk of chocolate, but she was actually gouging her finger out. She was so out of it that she didn't realize what she was doing. And she didn't know until the next morning when I told her what had gone on. But you're always on, you're always listening. And I eventually took that baby monitor away because I needed to sleep, that you need that peaceful area that you can be. And that was my bedroom. Go on vacation, find a respite opportunity. That's a whole nother topic to talk at another conference. But go on vacation, have somebody watch them. I'm taking care of a family where the wife has gone to Mexico for a week and we're taking care of her husband 24/7, and he's happy. It's early on in his diagnosis. We're there. He gets socialization with us. We're taking him out to meet his friends. He's doing things. He's talking to her. She's in Mexico with the family having a really good time. She can come back and be a great caregiver. You need to take care of yourself so that you can take care of the person that you're with, and you can it's still a relationship and still have a healthy one. Go to a concert. If you can take that person with you, that'd be great. We just went and saw Steve Miller, which is kind of dating me. But go and see a concert, whatever it is that you want to get out and do. If you can do it together, great. Or if you can go with your girlfriends, get out and do things. Yoga at home. You can do YouTube. There's yoga programs on YouTube. And then I use the Beachbody program, and then AARP has programs. So again, look up and find something that would work for you. sit and do nothing. Sometimes, and well, for me, doing nothing would be reading or watching a TV show. I started watching shows that were out in the 70s and 80s, and they're just a mindless way to watch TV, or something funny, like I think it's Schitt's Creek or things like that, that will make you laugh for 30 minutes and go on with your day. So and maybe the person you're with will watch it with you, or maybe it'll, upset them and you need to have it in another room and while they're taking a nap, but do sit and do nothing and let your mind take a break for a little while. Okay, so the next one we want to talk about is time management. And for me as a caregiver, this was really what got me through everything. Make a list of the things, and actually, so write a to-do list. This was somebody gave this to me recently, so that at the end of the day, you have a to-do list of the things you want to do for the day, whether it's make the bed, do the laundry, go get the meds, whatever it is for your list of the things that you're going to do for the day, and cross them off so that by the end of the day, when you think, I haven't done anything today, you actually look at that list and realize that you did quite a bit. And search for ideas that will help you manage your time better, whether it's bringing a caregiver, whether it's having the groceries delivered to you, whether it's sitting down and writing your plan for the week or the month. And when I'm working with my caregivers and my clients, I sit down and have them look at, so an example I will give to you of this is my mother, when she was living with us, loved to listen to music. And I always thought she only liked Catholic music. When you leave the house and that's it. You just leave your parents behind. And I didn't realize they were people, but I heard her listening to the Eagles and I walked in and I was like so surprised. And it became we would sit and talk about what her interests were. And that's now what I have my families do is we do a little bit of a survey. Okay, what music do you like? What games do you play? What things are you interested in? These were things that I didn't ever ask my parents before they came to live with me. But when I was a single parent, I knew what my kids liked to do, and I would set them down to those activities, and that would give me 30 to 40 minutes to run off and do whatever else I needed to do while they were safely doing whatever activity it was. It's the same thing you should do with the person that you're taking care of. Find something that will keep them interested and active for the amount of time that maybe you would need to go and do whatever you need to do, whether that's take a shower, whether that's, I know what I've seen lately. So when we walk on Town Lake, what I've started to see quite a bit of is tandem bikes. So I will see couples riding two on a bike. And you can always, I always see there's this one couple, it's the husband in the front and the wife in the back, and she's just looking around. She's not pedaling or anything. She's just got her legs on it, but he gets out to exercise and they're both getting out. So I'm sure that they were bikers as they were, younger, but so look at what your interests are and figure out what you can do to manage your time and to interest that person, so that you can fold into what they're doing. The shopping was my mom's thing. It's not my thing. I had to find somebody else to do with her. And that gave me a couple of hours, a break where somebody was out shopping with her. So just look at it that way and put that plan in place. I learned a lot about my mother when she came to live with us, and my husband was amazingly patient with her. I would have to go hide upstairs, and because she would come out when we were watching TV and sit and just start talking. It would drive me absolutely batty. We would go to the movies and she would do the same thing. So I stopped taking her to the movies because it would just make me really frustrated. But she would come in and sit with him while he was watching shows and they would talk. He was so patient with her. But just find your ways to be able to do stuff for her. And then we would sit and watch shows together that she liked. So. But the things that might help you with time management for resources online. One is somebody told me about this when I first started having children, and it's a website called Fly Lady. She helps you, and I still do it a little bit today. She helps you figure out how to clean your house in stages, so that you only spend 15 minutes a day cleaning your house, and your house is always clean. So it's a great way to get things done for housekeeping, where you're not just every 2 weeks you spend hours cleaning your house. and then you can't keep up with it the rest of the time. So it's a great way to do that. Another website that I started watching and then just now got back into and listening to what they're saying is Daily Caring. They send out a email probably just about every day is now what I see, but they have really great ideas on taking care, being a caregiver. And then the other thing about getting organized is having the information written down somewhere. So if you need to keep track of somebody's weight, or you need to keep track of the meds that they're taking, if you want a form that you can use. There were a lot of people that asked me to do my own, and they would talk about, well, I always say everybody's got one, why do I need to write one? And I still agree with that, because if you go to Pinterest or Etsy, you can go online and look for forms, whatever it is. If you've got somebody on a G-tube, or if you want to look at the best ways for feeding somebody with a mechanically altered diet or something like that, Pinterest and Etsy have, and actually AARP too, well, and so does Daily Caring Giving. They have great resources on there for those types of issues that you might have, or forms. So I've actually, Etsy usually end up having to pay for stuff. Pinterest, not so much. It's just other people that have whatever's worked for them. So I encourage you to go look and see what's available there to be able to become a more efficient caregiver and time saving. All right, so then the next one is I want to talk about is seeking support. And I can't say enough that you should ask. My brother-in-law is only 58. Well, now he's 58. When he was 57, he had a massive stroke. They had just come back from vacation. It's actually a thing called a vacation stroke. He had a stroke, a catastrophic. His wife is working full time. They still have a daughter. They have 4 kids, and one's still in high school. And when it occurred, she called and asked for me for how do I navigate this, and this. And I told her, anytime you need anything, just ask me. And I didn't hear anything for months, till finally she called and said, hey, was there any way you could help me drive him to his appointment? And I was like, I would be happy to. I've been waiting for you to call, been waiting. I offered it. So there are so many people that want to help. All you have to do is reach out, whether it's in your family or your neighbors. In my neighborhood, we have a small little group, and people will send out, will ask, I have this, I need help with this, or my grandkids are coming, I need a little bit, whatever. People want to help. So I encourage you to ask. And my kids hate it when I tell them that, because when I'm out with them, they get embarrassed when I go up to people and I ask them questions about whatever's needing, or why isn't this happening? And I don't do it in a mean way. I just ask, hey, would this be a possibility for this to happen? And they either say yes or no. The worst they can do is say no. So ask. I always encourage you to ask. Get in-home care, and the sooner the better, however that looks for you. I believe there's some sliding scale through Meals on Wheels. They have some programs, but there's also, if you can't get in-home care, what about going to adult daycare? Age has adult daycare. They're going to open the new one in South Austin. There's just so many options in the area. Again, ask. There's some assisted livings, independent livings have opportunities for you to go in, and they want you to know about their facility. So maybe they want you to come to activities, or you could set up a support group and bring your family member and have lunch there or something like that. So think outside the box for ways to get support for you. And then best thing is if you have that that exposure to the assisted living that's near you, when you have to leave town, then that person that you're taking care of maybe already is comfortable there, and then they could stay there for a couple of days. And people that I talk about, they've gone to a hotel for the weekend. So your person's cared for. And then if in the future that's something that you need to do and move to, then they're comfortable there. So research care ideas in your area. And if you don't know where to start, ask AGE, ask AAA. That's some of the things that I help families with, is that kind of stuff, to look outside the box. And what's your plan of care? How do you plan on taking care of this person? Maybe early stages, and it's not hard to do. You just need to make sure they're fed. You don't have to worry about them leaving the house. But what about when they do start to wonder? What about, are you thinking about putting the little squares in their shoes and their clothes? And I talked to somebody recently about that, and they were like, well, they forget their shoes and they're not driving anymore. And when they do leave, they forget their purse. So then you have to look at a different option to be able to track this person, because they just forget everything. They just walk out and, walk the dog. And I told them, well, why not put a square on the dog so that if they're with the dog most of the time, then you're tracking the dog. So there are things that you can look at, but you need to start planning now and then for the future what you want to do and figure out what's out there. And by coming to these sessions and these seminars, you're a huge step ahead of everybody else. There's some amazing people that are here to help you. So ask. Okay, so key takeaways that I want to cover is to remember, I just talked about that, reach out to AGE and AAA, check out the resource list that you're going to get. Rob said that there's you'll have the list that you can get to listen if you haven't listened to all the talks. And I encourage you to come on Saturday. And I think it's going to be a really good session. You'll get free lunch, and I think all of our speakers will be there. I'll be there. Then another takeaway is, what's your goal? Is your goal? And okay, so I had to say a little funny thing about this. I was talking to my son, and because I'm in this business, I know what the future holds. And so I've told him that when I get to a certain situation, I don't want to put him in that position to have to take care of me. And he was like, no, I'm going to take care of you forever. And my comment to him was, I really don't want you to have to wipe my behind. And he was like, ew, I don't want to do that. Of course, my daughter-in-law was like, I'll take care of you. You have to think about, what is your goal as a caregiver and as actually the person being cared for. What is your goal? What do you want out of, what are your plans? So think about that, and then put a plan in place to reach that goal. The goal and putting a plan in place is something that I come from as a strategic planner for my business. Worked for many years with a person that would help me sit down and plan for the year how I wanted my business to run and how I wanted it to be successful. And if you don't put ideas and goals in place, you're not going to get there. So you need to put a plan in place, reach a goal, and then how am I going to get to that goal? So I encourage everybody to do that. You are so important and if not more than the person that you're actually taking care of. So please take care of yourself. Please put the oxygen. I hear this all the time, but put the oxygen mask on first, and then to the person that you're taking care of. It is so important. And I want to thank everybody for being a caregiver, and you are exceptional for doing this. And I don't know if there's any questions. I see some things in chat. I needed to see if Patty or Rob wanted to go through some of the questions.
I think there was a really great resource here that one of our caregivers shared when you were talking about asking for help. And Serena says that as you think of things that other people can do to help, write them down. Then when someone asks, you can show them the list and they can select an item. Yeah. It's always too hard to remember everything when someone asks. So it's my tendency to say thank you and not accept help when I really need it. But if you make that list, then you've got something to show and say, hey, here are things that can help me out. Is there any of them that you could take off of my shoulders for a moment?
Yeah, that's a great one. That's a really good one. Any other? I see 20 people in the chat. I don't know if
I'll go back and look, but Patty, could you talk a little bit about the respite services that are available through the Area Agency on Aging?
Sure. I think we talked a little bit earlier, we're federally funded through the Older Americans Act. So we serve anybody 60 years or older or a family caregiver caring for somebody 60 years or older. In the case of people with dementia, the individual can be any age that you're caring for. So we're going to do a care plan for you. We're going to help a little bit with that planning piece that Samantha was talking about. And then we're going to help provide in-home support services for you. Our services are federally funded, so they're at no cost to you. We do ask for contributions. We do target populations of most needy. And it can be anything from adult daycare, as Samantha said, to respite services, someone in the home, to a piece of equipment that you might need, a ramp that you might need built. We can do medication screening. We have a full array of services based on your individual needs. So the best way to get to us is to call the information line 512-916-6062 or 1-888-622-9111, and we'll put that in the chat. And I just want to echo Samantha, it is one step at a time, it is one plan at a time, it is sometimes one moment at a time, and be there, be present in that moment, and stop like anticipating and moving forward. That seems to help a lot of people. That, and then also just what she said, just really give yourself grace. I mean, what we see a lot of caregivers struggle with is, I'm not good at my job anymore. I used to master that. I used to be really good at that. Now I'm not good at that. Now I'm not also good at taking care of my mother. I must just be horrible. You know, give yourself grace. Nobody's good at doing both of those things 24/7. And that's where the asking for help is really, that's really comes into play there. You know, no one can care for somebody with dementia 24/7, even the most superhuman. So give yourself grace and don't let the perfect get in the way of the good, you know, like just pick the battles, do what you can. And we're here to help you with the information. You know, we'll start with resources. We'll start with what you already have. And I agree with Samantha. Most people who step up to be family caregivers, it's not always the case, but a lot of people do it because they are the ones that have the strength to do it. And that doesn't mean you don't need help. Because you're a strong person, you sometimes need it even more because you've taken on more. And that's not saying that. We are well aware of people doing this alone, stepping up to do this because there isn't anybody else. And we try to work through some of that too and get you the help that you might need, not only for the physical care, but for your mental health as well. We have really increased a lot of services around mental health, counseling, support for you as a caregiver, as well as the person you care for.
Yeah, I want to echo that as well. You know, I think most people know that I care for my parents in addition to my husband who's living with dementia. And, you know, it's taken me a while to realize that saying I need some help is not a failure on me. You know, no one taught me how to pick my father up off the floor when he falls, and he was the size of a linebacker. Nobody taught me how to deal with the mood swings and all of the medications and all of the medical changes and everything else. And I think I'm like everybody else. You know, this is something that we said, oh, I'll be the one to help. But, you know, we talk to caregivers all the time, myself included, and the thing is, no one ever teaches us how to do these things. And that's why organizations like Age of Central Texas, like the Area Agency on Aging, are here, because they have the experience and the knowledge that can help us as our journeys change. And saying, I need help is not a sign of weakness. That's a sign of power. That's saying, you know, I accept the fact that I don't know everything, and I want the best for the person I'm caring for. And so being able to utilize those resources does not make you a failure. It's the same way that many people, when they need to place their loved one in a community, feel like, oh, I'm giving up because I'm placing them in a nursing community. No, that's just one more tool in your tool belt as a caregiver. And that's saying we've got to a point where I no longer have the skills, knowledge, and ability to keep my loved one safe and healthy. And so we're just going to the next step in our journey.
Yeah.
So Patty, thank you for saying that. That's very powerful.
I like the note. Somebody wrote a note about a stationary bicycle and then dog agility classes. Linda put that on there. I hadn't thought about that, but that's a dog agility classes would be perfect to get out and exercise. Run your dogs around, get them out, and you could do it together. I think that's a great idea.
We have a question in the chat, says that my husband is in a memory care community and I visit every day. There's only one plan or goal, which is I want to go home. But he is there because the agency providing the in-home caregiver can no longer send a caregiver to the house. She says, I've been unable to provide suggestions on what he can do. Do you have any suggestions to get him interested in the activities that they're having at the community?
Actually, the first thing I would say is to do an interest assessment on him. What are his interests? It may be that what they're doing is not of any interest to him at all. And so what are his interests, and ask the facility to provide that, or you bring somebody in. Actually, with a support group where the facility loved this one woman who's taking, her husband was there because she came up with these ideas of activities for the facility. But it was her way of, she's still being a caregiver, she's still being a part of what he needs, and she was helping the facility and keeping him there. So that would be the first suggestion I would do, is what are his interests and get them. I hate bingo. If you sit me in a room and try and have me play bingo, I will not be a happy camper. And then I was talking to somebody else recently that she and I were both talking. I was born in the late 60s, and supposedly for some odd reason, everybody thinks I'm going to love the Beatles, but I can't stand the Beatles. Do not sit me in a room of Beatles music and expect me to be happy. I love I'll listen and sit down and listen to the Eagles and somebody, but the Beatles, no. So my idea is that they're not providing the activities that will keep him interested.
That's a very good point, because a lot of times the activities director and the community director at the communities can be your best friend in providing service and care for your loved one. And so, they have an vested interest in taking care of your loved one. And so just be frank with them and say, hey, I don't think husband is interested in any of the stuff you're doing. These are things that he likes to do. Can you do some activities based around those? And might find out that some of the other folks there enjoy that as well.
Yeah. Well, and if you're interested, I do have an activity interest list that that I could give you, I could send to you, that you could use. So somebody who's late stage dementia, who's in a memory care unit, who maybe played golf all his life, they may not be able to do that now, but maybe they'll watch it on TV, or maybe you can bring in, or maybe you could take them and drive them around on a golf cart. There are actually golf courses where you can go on certain days with people with dementia and drive them around, and they play golf, and there are people that will support. So there are things that don't discount what they might have done in the past that they can integrate now. So the memory care, those facilities you're limited by who you've got hired and who you're in there. So maybe they're not imaginative, they're just being told what to do. So
yeah. And sometimes it's not, like, a lot of times the activities to some individuals are fun, are frivolous. They're and if somebody just worked their whole life and didn't have a lot of hobbies and didn't do a whole lot, sometimes it's a work related kind of activity.
Yeah.
They're going to be interested in something sort of productive. And I've seen that work, and a good activity director will try to have some of those things that somebody can do.
Yeah. I had a lady when I was running my nursing home who I still remember her. She had bright red lipstick. She wanted to wear red high heels, but she had edema, but she shoved her feet in those heels. And she came every day to my office and picked up the mail, and she delivered the mail down the hallway. And that was her thing. And she had to get dressed up to do it. So I allowed her to do that. So, and that a long time ago, this would have been a long time ago, they wouldn't have allowed this now, but I had a gentleman who lived there who wanted to clean cars. That's what kept him happy. So he would go out with a hose and, spray down everybody's car, but I don't think that would be allowed nowadays, but he was, he came inside and he had everybody's, so think outside the box. And all of us here, ask Rob, ask Patty, ask me. We'll be happy to, brainstorm ideas with you.
And there's actually a very good suggestion here in the chat from one of our caregivers who has been to a lot of our conferences, who I know personally. And her suggestion is that if the husband doesn't realize that the memory community is his home, make it more like his home. Maybe bring some more items from the house for his room, and make his room a little bit more of things that he would remember from home, so that it feels more comforting for him.
Yeah. I can see that. Mouse might want to, I always like to remind people too that some of the behaviors that you see in people, especially with dementia, are caused by pain, and they can't tell you that that's the case. And there's been a lot of studies done on that. So they did this one study in a memory care unit where they had people that were up at night that wouldn't go to sleep, and they had a hard time. It was what they ended up doing was giving everybody, and I'm not advocating this, but what they did was a study where they gave pain pills. I think it was Tylenol or something every night before they went to bed. They didn't ask for it, but they did, and they slept. So there might be reasons why it could be that has pain, or there's some other things that are causing him not, just to want to go. So, and also, are you visiting, if you're visiting at sundown, a lot of times if you're visiting late in the afternoon after you get off work, then maybe he's ready to get off work too and go home. So that might be, I mean, there just could be lots of different reasons for somebody behaving that way, but.
Yeah, I remember a presentation during one of our Striking a Balances several years ago, and the presenter, who was also a caregiver for her dad, was talking about how sometimes you have to drill down into what is really not being said by the person. And her example was that every night when dad got out of the shower, he would always ask, "Where's mom?" And that was, "Where's mom? Where's mom? Where's mom?" Well, mom had died 15 years prior. And of course, as the daughter, she's not going to say, "Dad, don't you remember mom is dead?" Because then he starts mourning all over again because he doesn't remember. She finally asked him one time, "Why do you need mom?" And his answer was, "Mom is the only person who knows where my pajamas are." He didn't need mom, he needed his pajamas.
Yeah.
And so it was drilling down a little bit into the why. Why are you not happy here? Why do you want to go home? And it's, always remember that you can't ask the person to come back to the real world. You have to live in dementia world. And understanding what their experience is at the moment. Why are they having these feelings? What is their interpretation of what's going on around them? And being able to help them navigate that in a more successful way. So I thought that was a great example. I carry that in my head all the time. And
I think that's great.
That is such a great example as a caregiver, that a lot of times the person we're caring for does not have the skills anymore to say very cognitively, "Hey, this is what's going on with me, and can you help me figure this out?" They're going to say what their feeling is at the moment, which is not necessarily telling you what the problem is.
Yeah. And I want to acknowledge that I want to feel for you, because when you go visit and then you leave and they want to go and you have to leave them there, that's be like leaving your kid at daycare every day, and they cry and you leave and you're crying too. So I just want to acknowledge that, and I know how hard it is, but while it's hard, it's important for both of you to I mean, it's great that you've acknowledged that they need to be in memory care, and that you are, there's nothing more that you could do at home, but that it's okay, and it will be okay. But you're still a caregiver. You're still checking to make sure they're being taken care of. They're eating their meds. So you're still a caregiver. That doesn't go away.
Yeah, I think that's very important for all caregivers to know that, our journeys are going to change as we go, and that's okay. And we may need to place our loved one in a community. That's okay. We may have made that promise sitting at the breakfast table 30 years ago. "Don't worry, Mom, I'm never going to place you in a nursing home." But we can't realistically say that, and we can't be expected to be held to that, because, like I said, we never know 30 years ago what life's going to throw at us in terms of the health of the person we're caring for, our own personal situations. We may not be financially or physically able to care for that person in our home anymore. That's okay.
Yeah.
That is okay. In-home care, nursing communities, memory care, these are all tools that we have as caregivers. the number one thing is the safety and health of the person that we're caring for.
Mhm.
And if that means that we need to move to a community where someone can help you in ways that I can't,
Mhm.
that's okay. You are no less as a caregiver. You are still the caregiver. You are still their primary caregiver. Your journey has just gone on a different street now, and that's all right.
That's all right. Yep.
I want to thank you so very much, Samantha, for all of this great information and all of your years of experience on both sides of it, being both the caregiver and the care provider. Thank you so much for sharing all that. Patty, thank you so much for being with us today as well. Area Agency on Aging is one of our greatest resources as caregivers. And so it's wonderful that Age of Central Texas and Area Agency on Aging have the opportunity to bring great folks like Samantha to you to provide all of this wonderful information. And we
Thank you
want
for
to thank,
having me.
yes,
Sorry.
thank you. And we want to thank you at home as well for joining us. We know as caregivers trying to carve time out of our day to be able to learn something new or just to share our feelings is difficult. It's hard to find this time. So I'm so glad that you did. And I want to thank you for all of your wonderful responses and advice that you've been sharing all of this week. We'll be back again tomorrow for our final day of presentations. We'll be here at 2 o'clock again and be the same Zoom link. So we hope that you will join us. And we hope that you have a wonderful rest of the day. Thank you so much for all that you do and all the care that you give.
And don't hesitate to ask, as Samantha said over and over again.
That is absolutely true. Thank you and have a wonderful day.